Second segment of the week for the A to Z Sports Big Orange podcast. On this Tuesday, uh, another day of fall practice has passed. They were off yesterday on Monday. So fall practice was today. We got to hear from Glen Elarbee about the offensive line and what he's thinking at the moment. And then the QB competition has continued to progress. In light of that, for this segment, we're going to talk quickly about what happened in the first day of this week in fall practice, specifically a couple of things that Glen Elarbee said. But for this particular segment, I I was listening to Brandon Walker's new college football podcast. Um, Obviously, polarizing figure. Think about him, whatever you want. But I liked this segment that they did this week on their show. I think they called it "Is This the Year?" And of course, they talked about national topics on his show. But I thought we would apply it to Tennessee today because I just thought it was interesting. It always feels like with Tennessee football right now, next year is the year. Well, is this the year? And we're going to come up with a few to discuss as far as that goes. But let's start out with just a few news and notes about fall practice. Ty Redmond back today, although he was just working on the side back from illness. We speculated it wasn't the Taco Bell lettuce that struck with Ty Redmond. We don't know, but he was back today, thank goodness, and working his way back. Ethan Davis not back from his undisclosed injury. Don't love that for a guy that has a little bit of injury history. And then Glen Elarbee spoke today, and we can kind of start there, Zach, I guess. He kind of just flat out said that his guy stunk last year. Basically said that his 2025 guys just like they didn't have it when it came down to crunch time near the end of the year. And it was interesting. What you think of what Elarbee said, Zach?
Yeah, it was surprising, I guess, that he was that candid, but that's kind of been the theme for this whole team. That when you go back and look at the issues from last season, they had talent. They could at times play with anybody in the country, but they couldn't do it for 60 minutes. And that seemed like that was roster wide. That goes into the Derek Owens hire and that conversation that we had. But I mean, your offensive line, they set the tone for everything that happens on the offense. Like if you're not finishing up front for 60 minutes, that's going to be tough to win games, especially in the fourth quarter. So it was not surprising that it was the revelation that he made, because I think we kind of saw that just from watching the games last season. It was just surprising that he was that open about it. But that's nice because we want to hear that kind of stuff. And but that also puts high expectations on the team going into this season, because he talked about this is the most competitive group he's had as far as the competition for some of the starting spots, how many options they have. It's Glen Elarbee's been the guy now for he's been there as long as Heupel has, going into his sixth season. We expect a elite offensive line at this point, especially with some of the players that you've recruited. You've got maybe the best left tackle in the country, if not the best. He's one of the top 5 in the country, at least as far as talent goes, and intangibles and makeup and everything that you want in a kid in David Sanders. That guy is your anchor. He's leading this room. He's stepping up as a leader. So it's a big prove it season for Elarbee, I think. And maybe I don't know. I think he put a little more pressure on himself by making that admission.
Yeah, because you're basically saying that was us last year, and we're gonna be better this year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be the most talented group that he's had on paper, at least. You look at the right tackle position. People were posting pictures of Ori Williams today. That dude looks like a monster.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does that mean he's going to be a good offensive lineman? You can be as big as you want to, but you still got to be skilled.
He's got to win the job first, still.
Yeah, exactly. Very much up in the air. Right guard Jesse Perry, Donovan Haslam. Where exactly do they go with all this stuff? And I'll use this as an opportunity to plug our very next segment, where we're going to preview the depth chart for Tennessee football. Subscribe to the A to Z Sports Tennessee Volunteers YouTube channel. Make sure you don't miss it.
And hype these videos too. You guys
yes,
say that.
Hit that hype button, because apparently it's helping us out, so we can get out there to as many people as possible. So, but as far as the offensive line goes, I have been highly critical of Glen Elarbee. I have, on the post-game show with Jonathan Crompton, I think there have probably been a number of times at this point where I've said, if they got rid of Glen Elarbee, that would be all right. Especially near the end of last season when you watch those boys get pushed around by Vanderbilt. I'm out on you. Don't get pushed around by Vanderbilt. That is not something that's going to happen at the University of Tennessee, and be acceptable at least. So yeah, we'll see exactly what he can do. But I liked the candidness. I like that he's saying it. I like that he's kind of challenging his guys, challenging himself, really, by saying that. So hopefully he gets his stuff together. But that's really it for now. First scrimmage coming up on Saturday. Obviously, that will be our main topic on Monday next week. And yeah, that's going to be, kind of the start of the rubber meeting the road. We'll see exactly where everybody lands when that happens. But let's start. As I already alluded to, Zach, I want to spend this segment more on this. Is this the year? And I'll throw out a few to you here. I'll give my input too on these, but I've only said one of these to you that you know about. We'll start with that one. Is this the year, Zach? Given what we know so far, 1 week into fall camp, is this the year where Josh Heupel makes the correct QB choice the first time around? Obviously, I say that. Heupel has an amazing track record with quarterbacks. We know that much. He eventually can land on the right guy and have that guy shine. But, Joe Milton over Hendon Hooker, Nico, everything kind of goes off the tracks, although he did get to a playoff. And then last year, the only choice that Heupel had, he really had no choice, and Joey Aguilar ends up having a great year. But this year, he has another decision, just like with Joe and Hendon. Is this the year that he makes that right choice on the first time around?
I think it is. I really do. And we'll see what that choice is. I think it's going to be Faison Brandon. But I think, this narrative about Heupel, and I've bought into this at times. I've written about it. I'm probably responsible for the narrative to some extent. I mean, I share some of the responsibility with some of the other media folks. But, that Joe Milton Hendon Hooker decision in 21, we all look back at it and it's like, man, you saw these guys play, and it was so obvious that Hendon Hooker was so much better. The offense in 21 and 22 was worlds better than it was in 23. 2023 with Joe Milton as the starter was the worst offense that Heupel's had at Tennessee. The skill position players weren't great that year. Receivers, Square White, Dante Thornton didn't play well. Brew McCoy got hurt. You didn't have a lot of dynamic players there to help Milton out. But, honestly, even the 22 team, those guys that went to the NFL haven't done much either. And Hooker made them look like superstars. So you look at that situation, it's like, how did you miss that? But I think that might have just been a one-off thing. You've heard Golish, after he left Tennessee, talk about that a little bit, about how he thought that he knew who the guy was and was wrong. Like, he was open that he was wrong. Imagine him and Heupel. That tells me that they weren't at odds over that decision. They both thought it should be Joe Milton. You've heard some former players like Ollie Lane talk about how Joe Milton was so much better in fall camp than Hendon Hooker, and he understood why that decision was made. It's just, I think Joe Milton, I mean, he's still doing it. He did it at Michigan. He's done it at Tennessee. Briefly did it with the Patriots till Mike Vrabel got there and shipped him off to Dallas. And Dallas was like, all right, we'll give him a chance. And then 1 year with him, then they bring in somebody to compete with him for the backup job because they didn't like what they saw from Joe Milton necessarily last season. I mean, you brought in Sam Howell, who's not, nothing to write home about, to compete with him. I think you just see Joe Milton in these practice situations and you're like, I can make that guy a star. I think every coach that has an offensive background, that has worked with quarterbacks, sees his traits and sees what he does in practice, and they're like, I can figure it out. I can make something out of that. And they're just transfixed by him. So I think it was a one-off thing, and I think Heupel would get it right.
It would be really encouraging if he does, because as I already said, we've seen that Heupel can pull amazing things out of a quarterback and an offense in general. But it definitely did shake my faith seeing a guy who, if Hendon Hooker doesn't get injured, he very well may have won the Heisman that year. And he started Joe Milton over that guy. And you gotta go, I mean, that's a pretty big misstep. But you figured it out. Hendon Hooker obviously kind of becomes a Tennessee legend in his time there. And yeah, I mean, with the way everything went down with Nico, just it's completely wholesale different. But still, it's just such a goofy situation where we kind of thought roster mismanagement has at multiple positions has kind of been a perpetual thing. Guys hitting the transfer portal that you thought you really wanted to keep, some things like that. And so in this situation, that this is the biggest QB battle since that very first one, and I think we feel the same way. Long term, it probably needs to be phase on Brandon. Almost this feeling of let's just go ahead and get to the future now. He may not be as good initially, but he's the guy down the road that you need and that you want.
Yeah. The only thing there is like what happens when they go under the lights. Like you just never we were
you don't know.
In our group text before this show, we were briefly talking about like JJ McCarthy and Kyler Murray and how I thought coming out of college McCarthy would be the guy. I still think he might have it in him. I don't know. We'll see. But like NFL teams get this wrong all the time. Like the Browns did it wrong every year, like multiple times a year for 2 decades now. Like and they put way more time into this than we do trying to evaluate quarterbacks. It is like such a hard thing to figure out which quarterback is actually going to be good when the lights come on and the reps matter. Like it is something in their brain, like Josh Dobbs. I mean, we saw Josh Dobbs practice. It wasn't that great, but he was always the best option on Saturdays, no matter what. I mean, it's an unexplainable thing. And so I get why it's so difficult, but yeah, the Hooker Milton one is an all-time one that it is hard to wrap your head around when you actually saw them play on Saturdays.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out soon enough about the current battle. First scrimmage coming up. Kind of the expected thing is after the second scrimmage, probably going to be landing on a guy at that point. So we'll see. Now, a couple more of these, Zach, moving to the defense. Is this the year that Jim Knowles' defense doesn't take multiple years to get right? Obviously, that has been the big narrative around his defense is that, it takes 2 years to get instituted and get everybody to learn it and all of these things. But Knowles has come out and said this thing has progressed along a lot faster than at other stops because he was able to bring staff with him. He was able to bring players with him that have played in his system before. So do you think that actually comes to fruition and this defense really improves?
Yeah. I definitely think that this will probably be his best year one at any stop. And it's because of the bringing the coaches along, bringing some of the players along. That's a huge part of it. And, as he mentioned when he spoke to the media, when fall camp started, it's not just teaching the players at those previous stops. It's been teaching the coaching staff who then have to teach the players. And that's really what sets us back so much. And so he's brought guys at all levels of his defense that understand what he's trying to do. And then you've got a veteran defensive line coach in Rodney Gardner, who's worked for a lot of different coaches, has been around for a long time. He's not trying to go be a head coach. He is a defensive line coach. He's going to, run the system that the defensive coordinator wants to run and not fight against it, because Knowles knows that that's important to win up front. So you've got all those guys that have bought in. You've got a team that's bought in. And I think a really underrated part of why this is going to work is because of the way this team has bonded together with this new strength coach, Derek Owens, because it has been some intense offseason workouts. This is why Boo Carter missing that stuff last year was such a big deal, even though it was a different strength coach. Like, that is where the team is really built, like a championship mentality and togetherness that you have to have. Like you hear about it from the old Vols teams, the 98 team and those teams, how close they were, how close they still are now. That's why they won. I mean, that's why they beat out other really talented teams. And David Sanders mentioned today about working out with the defensive line all offseason and how competitive they were with each other. Like you didn't want the defensive linemen to beat you. Defensive linemen didn't want the offensive linemen beating them in reps or whatever workout they were doing. I think all of that buy-in across the roster on both sides of the ball, but specifically the defense with Knowles, is really going to help all of this come together. I don't know how good they're going to be. I don't want to say they're going to be like a top 10, top 15 defense because you just don't know. But I think they'll be significantly better than what we saw last season. And last season was Yeah, I thought Greg McElroy described it perfectly when he talked about Tim Banks. It was really just a guess. Like they were guessing all the time. And sometimes they would guess right and they'd get these turnovers. They were generating turnovers and then they would get gashed for crazy amounts of yards, other plays. They would just have these crazy breakdowns where it seemed like nobody on the field exactly knew where they were supposed to be doing or what their responsibility was. And they were just trying to do too much. I think we'll see that eliminated. It'll be a more cohesive unit. They'll, you know, I don't know if they're going to be top 15 or top 10, but I think you'll see a drastic improvement. And it should be enough that if the offense holds up their end, then maybe this team can do some things.
Yeah, I think the good thing for Jim Knowles is that to vastly improve on last season, all you got to get to is like, what, 30th in America?
50th, I think even would be a huge improvement.
Because what were you, like 92nd at the end of last year? Just wretched. Yeah, and so as long as you're middling defensive wise, you are way better than last year. And so I agree. I think between the strength coach, the coaches he was able to bring with him, the players he was able to bring with him, all of those things combined, I think does bode well for that defense improving. And how hard is it to go up from nearly rock bottom?
The biggest thing is, like, do you have the personnel up front, defensive line and edge rusher? I think those are the big question marks. If you have the right personnel that can get home in the SEC against some of these other really good teams, and we'll see. I mean, hopefully.
Yeah, edge rusher is big. Come hang out with us in the next segment with the depth chart. We'll talk about it. Last question here on these "Is this the year?" questions. Zach, is this the year that Josh Heupel finally avoids the Josh Heupel loss? A few, and I think for anybody that I think everybody probably knows what I'm talking about, but the South Carolina in 2022, Arkansas in the playoff year, that one game where you go into it and you're like, oh, this won't be a breeze. It's on the road, but we're way better than this team, and then you end up losing. There's a few opportunities for this one. At Georgia Tech, Auburn at home is a scary one. At Arkansas for obvious reasons, and at South Carolina.
That one.
If the Jared Curtis kid ends up being decent in his first year at Vandy too. So a number of places where if you lost, I think you'd be saying, what the heck were we doing out there? Can Josh Heupel avoid it this year?
I'm going to say no, unfortunately. And it is because of everything you just said, that list of games that you just gave. There's too many opportunities for it to happen. And South Carolina obviously is going to be one that everyone has circled, because by now it might even be in their head at this point, because we've talked about it so much, how bad their record's been in Columbia over the last really 20 years. It hasn't been good. Arkansas, I mean, we remember what happened there, and that's another, Tennessee hasn't won there. They haven't played there much, but they haven't won there in 19 years at this point, going back to the Fulmer days. And then, Georgia Tech at night, tough. And you're going to have a young quarterback either way that's going to be starting in these environments for the first time ever. It's going to be tough. And just because you go play on the road at Arkansas, early in the season, or at Georgia Tech, doesn't mean like, oh, okay, I'm a road warrior now. This is nothing. I've experienced this before. No, it's still going to be tough when you go to South Carolina, when you go to Texas A&M later in the season. Those are going to be tough. They're going to be really tough road games. And I'm kind of, we say it all the time, like until it changes, like this is just what we're going to go with. And I think there's just too many opportunities there to lose one of them. You might lose two, honestly, with a young quarterback. I mean, it's very possible that could happen.
Yeah, sadly, I agree. I think you're more susceptible this year because of the young quarterback situation than even in some of the past years. It's a minefield, but I think you have an opportunity. Goofy noon game against Texas. There's one where you could get kind of a freak win and an unexpected one.
And they might be a little overrated. They're a talented team, but Sark hasn't proved anything more than Heupel to me.
They lost to Florida last year, and they were uber talented last year also, although Arch has gotten better since then.
Yeah.
But at Alabama, one that you can get there. I mean, who
Yeah.
knows exactly how good they'll be next year? They also have a very young QB, or a QB competition at least. But yeah, it just feels like it's just too many chances to stub your toe here.
It's
Um,
weird in the SEC now. I've said it. It's like it's easier to win a championship than ever, no matter where you're at in the SEC, or but it's also harder because every team from top to bottom. I don't know if Mississippi State and Texas play this year, but if they do, it wouldn't shock me if Mississippi State somehow upset Texas. Like, there's no more result in this league that's like, oh my god, I can't believe that happened anymore. Like, that's those days are gone to me.
yeah, without a doubt. The parity in college football that has been bubbling up because of NIL is it's been crazy. And Mississippi State, they got some what's it, the quarterback Kamario, is it
Taylor,
Taylor?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, he looked like a dude at points. He didn't play very much last year, but when he did, he looked. I mean, was it? Did they play in a bowl game? I don't know. I saw him play at the end of the season. He just looked pretty dynamic, and yet, who knows? Maybe they end up having a freak great quarterback, a little Hendon Hooker situation there,
I
and
mean, you could be a 5-7 team and upset a really good team,
yeah,
and it's happening. We've seen it happen. It's tough.
Arkansas with Tennessee,
Yeah,
in 2023. Yeah, so hopefully when it does happen, or if it does happen, it's not too painful, or it doesn't throw us out of the playoff race or whatever it would end up being. But I think that's the segment. So Charlie Burris, Zach Ragan, A to Z Sports, Tennessee Volunteers, the YouTube channel where you can find us. Final segment of the week is going to be a depth chart review. See exactly where we land with the starting lineup for Tennessee. We'll run through it. So join us there. And that's it. We will see y'all in the next one.
see you guys later.